Good evening everybody. We'll try this a second time. Welcome one and all. This is my Thursday stream with something slightly different tonight. We're going to be going and doing a little bit of creative stuff tonight. Still World of Warcraft, but we're going to be looking at Tol Dagor in its 3D glory and see if we can work on the model a little bit. So let me swap over to, well, this is WoW at the moment. So our current focus is going to be this little building off here in the distance. Now I've already imported the model into Maya, and this is my 3D program of choice. So we can see we've got a whole model here. I'm going to see, this is a good test to see whether Mr. Potato works very well with the setup I have at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see how well my program copes with rendering and doing the encoding on the one computer. I've not tested this before, so it's going to be interesting. Just got back into Minecraft with Boyfriend, had a fun day. Now WoW crafting, which is when it's nighttime. That's fantastic. Drizzling Rose. Good evening everyone. Let me see who we've got in. Silent Mouse, Metcat, Dutchman, Andelief, Mushy was in, and then you had to go. Unfortunately, we missed you. Edwards, good evening to you. Ohio, and who else have I missed here? Sushi Oasis, Real Ginny's here. Lots and lots of people. Good evening, one and all. Good evening, Gwilym. We're currently looking at what Tol Dagor looks like if you were a level editor or someone like that trying to work on this model in the prison with walls made out of paper. Yes, I mean, if you were to look down at the entrance down here, where you can get into all of the lovely sewer area. I think it's this one, isn't it? If I've just popped some textures on here, just let this run through. It's probably going to take a little while for my PC to just work on the textures for all of these, but we should eventually get a decent view of everything in its current state. Name plays issue. What's the name plays issue? You also got the Game Cat Cat, good evening to you, and Adrios, good evening to you. Also got the controller wolf farming under control, so now you can get Sleepy with Gold farming every evening, like how your mum reads a book. That's fantastic, Drizzling Rose. I like that, definitely. You just finished work, why am I looking at 3D software? I was thinking the same. I've also been doing tracking stuff all day today, and so to get back into doing 3D as well is going to be definitely interesting. Now we do have, there's a few things missing here, I would say, from when I look at this in the actual game. There's a lot more of these mushrooms and things around, so it could be just a drawing issue at the moment, or, oh no, here they are, they've come in now. It's probably just a transparency issue or something like that, so we're not quite seeing them here in all their glory. We're missing a few textures as well. We've got some transparency issues going on here with the trees. We've got something very interesting that we're going to have to try and fix here on the actual building itself. They're using something, I'm probably using vertex blending here to get the blended streaks blending with the brickwork, but these are actually two separate geometry at the moment, which probably need to go into one and then blend one into the other. So that's going to be interesting, definitely. So basically, Game Cat Cat, we are looking at making a pretty version in 3D of Tol Dagor. So I have the scene here. Let me just turn that back to the shaded view so we can see that there. And then if we go back to the rendered, this is the latest render I have of it at the moment. There's still a lot of things not quite right with it yet. All the transparency's not quite worked. The sea is very, very rough at the moment, things like that. So basically there's a lot of work to do to this to make it into a nice pretty scene, because you never see Tol Dagor sort of like in a nice daylight scene. When you look at it at the moment, you know, over here, this is probably about, I had a look at it in daylight earlier, and it was bright until you get closer to it, and then it goes into shrouded mist and everything else like that. So there's a lot to look at. Probably worth going over here, because we'll need to use this as some reference. I'd love to get some of this skybox in as well. Lizard GM, good evening to you. There's tons of bugs inside. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in here, definitely. Let's have a look. So this is the in-game model of Tol Dagor. Yes, that's right now. Basically, it is exactly what you see here. It's the same geometry. It's been exported out, and I put it into my 3D software of choice. So as soon as you get close to this, it starts getting really foggy, which understandably I know why Blizzard does this, to make it all moody and misty and everything. But it does make it difficult to sort of see anything else on the horizon. It would be nice to just extend this a little bit more. Obviously, this effect as well is going to be something interesting to do as well. Watch the enchanting. What was that? Watch the enchanting do negative profit on almost all your enchants. Seems like markets are crashing. Yes, Blaskal, I was looking at my enchants earlier, and I'm making just a small amount on each, so it's still worth it for me, but it is a tricky one, certainly. Applying knowledge of gold making certainly is difficult, but finding something unique, that seems to be advice from our economy Reddit. Yes, pretty much as best I could say is find your niche as best you can, certainly. There's a weak aura that sets plate and nameplate distance on select zones in Waycrest Manor. Oh, right, okay, that could be interesting. Can I fix the bugs? I could try. I use Maya, yes, Max, I got Max as well. I quite often flip between the two, because Max is quite good at handling large amounts of geometry, which is obviously what we have in a scene like this, looking at it, and then just looking down at this bit. But UVing definitely in Maya, I would agree, is my... Oh, the Mythic 10. Yes, we've got that still. We've got... I picked up the chest earlier. We'll just have a quick look at that whilst I'm here. My key I have at the moment is a Mechagon Workshop Mythic 7. We won't be doing well tonight for the moment anyway. We're going to be looking at 3D. So I'm looking at, say, this area here. And you see you've got all this nice glowy effects and things like this going on here. And then up here, if you go through all this fog is quite interesting actually. If you look at this, you see this just like faint fog that you have here. If you look at that in the actual Maya model itself, if I find the ones that I hid, just search fog, I've got a fair few of them in here that are already hidden. Fog, low mist, all of these. I'll take that one, and I'll take all of these. I'll just show those. Those are actually just great big white sort of squashed spheres or planes where they have the fog effect just scrolling along there. But at the moment it's basically all white at the moment. You can, Nabble? Shame can't sleep for longer, but got to go to sleep since work tomorrow. No problems, Blastical. Lovely to have you here. Hope to see you again soon nonetheless. Call quits on the long boy today. Bought Shadowlands with your gold instead. Well, that's not a bad use of your gold, Stopcraft. At least you've got that, certainly. And Sit8, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I think Max's UVing is quite difficult because you have to use the unwrap UV, and it's not quite as intuitive using the modifier in Max like that as it is to doing just straight UVing in Maya. Your buyout sniper doesn't seem to work in 8.3. Covered all the strings from Reddit. Doesn't seem to pick up anything. With the buyout sniper, the thing to remember is that the way TSM uses like the first and the last page, it used to do it before the new auction house. That's no longer the same. And now TSM, they put a blog post out on this recently about it uses the whole auction house, because that's the way the new auction house works. So you might have to merge things into certain groups and things like that. Brilliant, thank you Neville for that. No worries, have a great raid Neville, hope to see you again soon. Totu, good evening to you, hope you're doing well. So yes, we're looking at these all these fog things, which if I don't actually have the textures for these. I don't believe they've come through because they're actually literally the mask is literally just a great big white thing here at the moment. I'm not sure there's anything I can get useful out of that. Probably using the alpha map of that, potentially. Looking at that, there's probably something I could look into a little bit more detail on that. As a PNG, it could be quite interesting to see. We'd have to probably have a look at that in Photoshop. If I can, let's see, where are we at? Models exported, doodad, FX, 8FX fog mask. That will be the one there. If I actually render this, let's see what the stream does when I render at the same time. So I'm using Redshift as my renderer. So I'll just be interested to see if the stream stutters or anything whilst I sort things out at the same time. I'll just leave that processing in the background. You can't quite see that in the bottom. Basically you have to make a group for specific materials and maybe to snipe out. Yes, pretty much that'll be the best way to do it, certainly. Pasteur, this is Tol Dagor in 3D, in a very rough imported 3D version at the moment. So you can see here all the fog is literally just great big white blobs. That didn't render too badly actually, looking at this. The fact that I've got WoW on in the background as well. Let's just move out a little bit and we can probably see that in a little bit more detail. There'll be a scrolling texture on the UV, cheaply gives you the appearance of moving smoke. Seen it used on running water too. Yes, that would be my guess as well, Edwards. I would say they're literally just, although looking at that, the alpha map is slightly different. Maybe they're using vertex transparency on the edges of this so that they can scroll the UVs across and keep it faded off of the edge, or maybe do some kind of animated warping effect perhaps, because with all this fog at the moment, obviously that's not going to look too good. What I'm going to do though for the moment, I'm not going to look at the fog yet because I'm going for a brighter scene at the moment. So I'm going to take all that fog out for the moment and we'll just look at it in its current glory at the moment. 3D right before I does my +7 run. Yes, we might get back into doing a little bit of that later. We'll have a look first and see if I can do a little bit more of this and see if we can get this into a cleaner state. So you can see there's a couple of things that obviously are wrong here, which is mainly these trees. If you look at this, the alpha map hasn't come through the conversion process. So if I render this one out as well. I am on EU servers. I am on my own server is Shadowsong on EU. So you can see here all of this black outline is basically the alpha map hasn't been defined in the texture. If I just make that a little bit bigger, you can see it there. So it's literally just coming through as a black map. So what we need to do is use the alpha of this tree. So this tree has two textures assigned to it. So it's got the Cultiris tree trunk texture here, and we have the canopies here, but it has no alpha map assigned to the transparency. So it's quite a simple process here. Is I need to actually reverse it. So I take the alpha, I'll just take the X channel here, and I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put it onto the X channel of this. Try that again. There we go, and I'm going to pop this straight into this X into the RGB values of the transparency of this shader. It's a very simple shader at the moment, but now when I go and render this, so we have a look at this now, it's like that, and then I'll render it again, and we'll have a look and see how that goes. Melsidian, good evening to you, fellow artists. Assume my day job involves 3D modelling. It's of a fashion, yes. I do a lot of lighting and rendering, using Maya and Redshift as my day job. I do a lot of big CAD conversions and things like that. So this is a bit of a busman's holiday for me, if you will. If I ever decide to play on US servers, Horde will run you through a 15 keystone. Least you can do for asking all these questions, no problem. I'm more than happy to help. So you can see here, that is the transparency working a little bit nicer on that tree. We need to go through all the other trees and look at those, which ones which are working, which ones aren't. If I just pop this on, see how well Maya handles this. So we've got this tree. So once this one gets updated, all the other trees that use the same texture will get updated. So we've got all of these ones around the side. If I just do one of these, and we'll just update this one. So again, go to the alpha, stick a reverse node in. Oops. Go to the channel there, out channel, out alpha, into X. Never seems to work the first time. Give it a second go, and then out of that into the transparency, red, green, and blue channels, as it's just a one channel for each. There we go. Magnus Game, good evening to you, and Vespirox, cheers from Chile, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is there. Whenever you see the technical artists at work messing with lighting, it looks like witchcraft to me. The way I like to think of it is it's pretty much it's virtual photography. This is the way I look at it. You're placing your cameras, you're placing your light sources, and you're then literally just playing with light and colour and materials and things like that. So that's looking a lot better there in terms of how that was. This tree over here seems to be missing something. That's a slightly different one over there. Let's have a look at this. That's quite interesting. That seems to have almost like a double shader on it there. You've got one layer of leaves and then another layer of leaves. I wonder why they did that. Maybe to give some sort of shadow effect or something like that. Let's have a look at this texture. So that one is reversed on that one actually. So is there something special about this? Let's clear the search feature and let's have a look. Where is this one? If I can find anything about that. It's just called Tree at the moment from looking at that. Kuturus, it's Witchcraft. Good evening to you. I hope you're doing well. And Zaminich, thank you very much for the follow. Hope you're doing well. Is instead of having two-sided planes. Do you think so? I wonder how often you'll see that though from looking at that. Let's have a look at this in a little bit more detail. Because if I was to make this single-sided anyway, where's my render stats? Mesh controls. No, there's the shape. Component display. No. Not tessellation. Where's the render stats? There it is. Double side. If I turn double sided off, they are actually both facing the same direction, which is odd if you were to look this from that angle. So unless they're not reversed or something like that, there's something very strange going on with this one. Because there's definitely, well, it looks like actually that is the trunk texture underneath there. That's not quite how I'd expect it. Let's just have a look at that a little bit. So the trunk is underneath. What does this tree look like in game? That'll be a good test. And we'll see if we can work out what's going on with this poor tree. Where is it in the world? So it's in the corner near the broken ship. Okay. How long did it take me to get the delicious chocolate cake recipe? Been doing dailies for a week now. I have absolutely no idea how long it took me to get it. It was just happened to be in my recipe book when I was looking for it. So let's have a look. Where is that tree? So here we go. So from looking at them, they have the branches. It could be just a question of just not having the right texture applied to that or something like that. How much gold for the tree? I reckon this one is a good height. I mean, if a 6-foot Christmas tree can get you about 30 or 40 pounds, I reckon that is probably worth about if you do the conversion, that's probably worth £100, which is probably 10 tokens, which is probably what, 1.7 million or something like that one, I reckon. Something like that. So I would say yes, from looking at this, it's quite dense. I suspect that there's probably an issue there. This is actually double there and double there. And then we look at this on this side. It's almost like we need to... Something's been given the wrong texture from looking in on that tree. That's interesting. That one's definitely correct. Is it the whole thing doubled up? Doesn't look like it further up from looking at that. Does it have the trunk texture? So there's two textures assigned to this mesh. If we were to look at and just select objects with this material. So it is, the trunk material is assigned to all of those, which would be fine for this central section here, because that is the trunk. But the rest here, I don't think it really needs to be assigned. So we may have to do a little bit of fixing of these trees. There's quite a few of them scattered around. This is where I'd like to work on the actual script that I've got of importing trees and things like that. Because not all of these will I want to have correctly done. Let me just take all of that out. Have a look at this at the moment. So we want to keep all of those. And what I'll probably do is actually just delete. I'll go in and delete these superfluous bits of geometry around each of these. Or I'm going to assign them to the other texture, would be another option from looking at this. Just have the giggles looking at square trees, no problem. This is WoW deconstructed, as it were. So it's a very different world when you're making a game like World of Warcraft. You don't necessarily see. It's a bit like the Matrix. You don't see the tree. You see the triangles. You see the polygons and things like that. I didn't include the plate braces and the shovel strategy. Is because you consider it will always be higher in cost because I didn't have blacksmithing at the time. It is the second one, Magnus, but it also does factor in that with blacksmithing it tends to not be the most cost-effective way. But yeah, it's I would certainly have a look at the prices of the braces on your server and just do a visual comparison and see if there is anything different there for you. Because it might be useful to just check the prices. So I think if I was to do this manually, there's not too many of these to do. So I'm just going to select the ones that I know are going to need some work. So we'll take the small ones. We'll take that. Take that one, and then we'll move over to these two big ones over here. Now ideally what I'll be doing is replacing these in one script, but I don't have that script available yet, so I'm going to work on this as an individual scene. So I'm just going to look at these individual trees, and then within this I can go into each one, probably select the trunk faces because we want to keep those. There are some branches in there actually. Want to keep those. Oh, this is the actual I've got the whole geometry now. Ah, yes, that didn't quite work out how I wanted to because I've got those back in, so I will have to go back and just select select objects with material like that, and then I'll just select those again. And we'll have to stick with those other ones and do those with those in situ, I think would be easiest from looking at that. So I can take all of those. From looking at that, my first guess would be that all the branches are fine, it's just everything else. So if I just literally just reselect those, I wonder what that would look like if I assigned the transparency texture to it. So let's assign that to the trees. Would it actually look correct? Yeah, I would say that looks okay. Whether we want to double them up or not, I'm not sure at this stage. But we'll go through, we'll have a look at everything and then have a go from there, I think. What else did I miss? I just picked up your kebab money and noticed that the price spiked yesterday. It sold 33 for 332 gold each. Price has now dropped down to 40. Wow, that's a big drop and a big spike as well. Also, the scribe version of step 3 isn't there. That's true, actually. Using the inscription, that hasn't been added in there either. Yeah, they are in fact the most costly compared to the others. Okay, that's good. It's worth checking, certainly. In a business meeting right now, but want to drop in and say thank you for all you do. Just hit 1 million gold. Oh, that's fantastic, Johnny Depth. Lovely to hear that. Congratulations. So what am I doing, by the way? I am literally going to just basically fix this scene up and make it look prettier so it renders nicely. So what we're working on at the moment is just the trees here in Tol Dagor, and then we'll go through in a little bit more detail. Technari, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. So let's just go through these trees one by one. There's not too many of them, so I probably wouldn't want to do them all at the same time. That's interesting, those have got selected at the same time when I double click that. Is that because that's coming out as an instance of these when it came in as the FBX import? It looks like it might do. That might save me a little bit of hassle. So if I was to then shift select those faces, it does actually select all the faces of the other trees as well, which is really handy because then I can actually then go in here. That would explain why the FBX was so small, because I imported this from Blender. So it looks like it's made instances of each tree. So if I were just to test that out, if I was just to move, I'll just have to reset the move tool. There we go, so it's not sliding. I would have to restart my Maya now because it's stuck on that, so I'll leave that for the moment. But it does look like it's working across the board, which is quite nice. Let's go over to object mode and select the next one. It looks like that's stuck again. I have this graphical glitch sometimes in Maya, so it might be worth a reload. So I'll do a quick save whilst I'm here. My crash sense tingles. Got to make sure that you save frequently when you're doing 3D. Am I rendering the scene for fun? Am I going to use it for something special? I am basically rendering it for fun. This is a good test scene because it's self-contained on 4 tiles. The dungeon scene has all the stuff that's inside it as well. So I'm just going to close Maya down and reload it. Let that come through. Whilst that's going, we can just have a look, see if there's anything we were missing. It does look like these trees were fairly dense from looking at this. These ones are the slightly sparse ones. So it may be that it was just misassigned the wrong textures on that geometry. Because these do look... It's interesting, these are different colours as well. I'm not sure I've got the colour scheme coming through on mine. Unless they are actually assigned... That's either vertex colour information or that is an actual different PNG colour that's giving me the different coloured trees. I'll have a look at those in a moment. I mean, it's really nice. Like you said, Edwards, it's a nice contained area with a lot of interesting things, and I'm eventually going to do a script where I import all of these objects as Redshift proxies, but at the moment I think it's probably fine to just keep it all as one object, I think, for the moment. Let me just reopen my Maya. Want to start a little fun project too by making a new version of old plants of WoW, model them and make dioramas of each area. It's a stand-in for now, but giving motivation, and that's a lovely idea. Yeah. Do you mean actual, excuse me, actual physical models, or do you mean in 3D? Because an actual physical diorama would be fun, definitely. In 3D models, yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I'd love to just do these as little animated backgrounds or wallpapers or things like that. Just trying to use my skills to make things look pretty under different lighting and give it the full 3D render treatment. Right, let's just wait for mine to fully load in, and then we'll have a look at this in a moment. Right, there we go. So let's go to our recent file, let that load up through. Hopefully it will. I've got this other graphical glitch like this at the moment, and I have to reset my workspace as well every time I load something in. But that's not a major issue. I'll let that load in the background, and we'll have a little... So my auctions are starting to expire now, so I'm tempted to go and just fix those at one point soon. I mean, what they've done really well here is just get the mood and the lighting for everything. The sky is absolutely brilliant here. And then all this glowy stuff here works really well. Obviously having these walking around would be really nice to have in my animation. The water though is very calm. It's just a very gently rippling water. It would be quite nice to do some actual fluid simulations here and have waves coming into the beach. That would be quite nice. By plants you mean like herbalism plants, and ones you can pick up, so basically no trees. That's a pretty good idea though. Just get like some nice high res versions of those. But yeah, speed tree is quite good for making actual trees. These are quite interesting. These birds flying around, they look like they've come in as actual models, and I think they literally just rotate around. I've got those in the scene, so they've literally just got a constant rotation on them, going round and round. There's another one over there. Good evening, Natty. Hope you're doing well. Quite challenging redesigning the very old ones. Sometimes the icon is more helpful than the actual model. Yeah, the models of the really old ones are really really sparse when it comes to the polygon count. Right, let me just reset my workspace and see if you can get back to my regular scene. I just have to pull my attribute editor over to the other side. Let that run through. I'm probably stressing out my poor Mr. Potato here. It's not used to running this much stuff at the same time. I've only got 16 gigs of RAM, but we're doing okay actually. It's mainly the CPU that's under load. So hopefully we should be okay on that front. I'll let that all come through, and then we'll see if we can get back to our trees. Happy little trees, as we would say, if we were doing this Bob Ross style. Yeah, it's probably going to warm the room up quite nicely with my CPU at full load. I am using the same computer I play with, so it's all going under the same load. So I'm not surprised that it's actually taking a long time running through everything here. My poor 1060 GPU is certainly not what I'm used to working with when I'm at work. So this is a far cry from that. It does look like though the trees are both colours there, so they must be two different textures from looking at that. So I think I'm almost probably done with those. I do need to fix this one up. So if I just take that, isolate that, take the textures from that, select just the oh no, we want to select the ones that have got the trunk texture, which is that one, and then we'll just hide those and re-hide again. Then I'll take the faces there. That should be the whole trunk, looking at it. Let's have a little closer look at that one. It looks like it actually stops there, interestingly. There must be a division there on the tree. Then we can go at least up to include the branches, include those branches. Just don't want to miss anything, because I'm going to end up reversing my selection and assigning the other texture to it. So just want to make sure I've caught everything, branch and all. So let's just go through there, go around. Oh, there's a branch hiding in amongst that lot. Just looking up. And what's that one got on it? Let's have a look. That looks like that should be branch. Interesting, there's a little bit of split vertices here. They're not quite been sewn together correctly. Hey Delicious, how are you? It's not too advanced when you look at it. It is basically what the WoW team do when they're working on their models and things like that. So let's take all of those. That's all the other bits and pieces, and then we'll assign the leaf texture to that. Did that work? Report selection. Why didn't that one come through? Interestingly, that must be. Oh, that's a separate model, perhaps. Even though it did look like it should. Let's go object mode on that one. Let's select the face. So that is the same one, but that didn't come through in the assignment. Interestingly, that one did. That one worked, but this one didn't. So I may have to go through these individually. The instancing didn't seem to work on this side of them. This side of the tree. Let's just go through this in a little bit more detail. Same process really, it's just I thought they were instanced, which means they're basically a copy of each other without you having to change anything. Yeah, all those ones inside there are just missing, so I'll take those, take those. We'll look up, we're missing that one, and that face. Selecting all of those, and then we want to select that little trunk part there. Then we've got the whole tree. We can select the reverse of it. Maybe it's because it's not one of the trees, perhaps. That one's fine, but then we're going to have to go through all the other ones and just reassign these. Slightly inconvenient, but we're alright at the moment. What did I miss? And what else I missed? So much fun to hear my thought process regarding TSM, but even more fun now that I'm working in Maya. It's an interesting one because I've used Maya for, well, since it was before it was Maya, before when it was Alias Wavefront. I've used Max since it was 3D Studio. So this has been my lifeblood for the last sort of 25 years. Oh, we've got a sale. What did we sell? Let's have a look. That was the Enchant Ring Pact of Versatility we just sold. So that's not bad. Stream too early. Oh, that's for Derp, is it? Yeah. So much chatter to follow up on. There is quite a lot here. That's the problem I'm noticing when I'm doing 3D work, is I do focus a lot on what I'm doing. I tend to work in silence a lot of the time, so it's quite interesting talking through my process as I do it. I see that has the correct face assignments, so I should be able to just literally the correct face selection rather. I should be able to just assign that to that, and that should work. It doesn't. It could be something wrong with the instancing of this. Let me just reselect those. Give this another go. There's probably some issue here with the instance that's not working correctly. Mine doesn't always work so elegantly with instances. There'd be a better way of doing this for larger scenes, but that's probably something I'll work on at a later stage with Redshift proxies. That would save me a lot of memory as well, working on that. So I'm just going to select all of these elements of the tree, and then I'm going to go and just select the inverse of the faces. Where's that stump? That usually gets missed. There it is. And then that trunk there. And then we can go in and inverse select that lot. Now hopefully this time it'll work. Let me just get close to it so I can see. I'm going to assign that. There we go, that's come through correctly. So we'll have to do these trees one by one, it would seem. There we go. So that tree is working. Remember, these are double layered trees. So how many trees have we done? Right, we've got a fair few over this side to fix. All individual ones. There we go. Let's start with this one. There we go. What did I miss? You were choosing Max and Maya back in 2000, 2004 in high school. Wow, yeah. I still make packs, yes, but I only restock once I've sold them. There's not too much of a drain on my veiled crystals, though. It's a good point, though. You're using an old version of Cinema 4D, but feel like Blender has come a long way. Should you convert over to Blender? A lot of people are using Blender. I've never really used Blender, but I did install it so that I could do the main conversion of these objects. I used the plugin to import the WoW assets into Blender, and then I exported them from there. From what I can see of Blender, it does look very robust, so I would certainly give it a look. Cinema 4D still has its own niche though, especially if you're doing any motion graphics and things like that. Funny story, I want to expand server for goal making and sitting there deciding servers and you're like, Shadow Song, sounds like a nice server, but where do I know it from? Did some research and realised that I was on it. So went to some other server with a really big raiding community. No problem, Derplis, you're more than welcome here. There's lots of us here on Shadow Song. So you miss it so much, but you don't remember. Do you not use 3D in your current line of work then, Silent Mouse? Use Maya in uni and switch to Max when you joined a studio. Wish they could just combine them with all the features. That would be nice, yeah. But they're so embedded into their own niches. I mean, Autodesk would probably end up dropping one of them. I imagine. Well, they have their both niches because. For a long while, Max was the de facto one for game development. That one's got everything selected, so that's all in one nice chunk. This must be a slightly different tree model, that one. So I can do that one easily enough. Let's have a look. What else are we missing? We're looking for missing trees. Do this one. So when I double click on the faces, normally if all the vertices were welded together then this whole lot would get selected, but you can see here there's some missing bits and pieces. So they've obviously split the vertex there, they've missed that there, and then some of these branches haven't been welded, so you have to go in and double click these individually and then work my way up inside. As I've done a few of these, I now know where the points are, and then this lot is a complete mess. There's a lot of split vertices here. It's not joined at all, that section. So I can hopefully just catch everything. You just have to look in and around the model just to try and see everything you might have missed. It's not really going to be seen if you do happen to miss one or two, but it might look strange if it's got the wrong texture assigned to it. So I'll add that one to them. After seeing the Unreal 5, you can say the trees need more triangles. Yeah, from the Unreal 5 demo was absolutely amazing. Looking at that, I'm just going to do a quick save there. My crash sense was tingling. So I don't want to lose any of this work as I go through it. Always thought you needed to have all the edges connected for rendering, but it seems in WoW they tend to not connect all edges together. Yeah, not having edges connected isn't really a requirement, especially when you're working with something like this with the planes, just defining a whole pattern of leaves. Basically, you can see there. That's interesting. The bottom section there isn't actually connected. If I just edit this. Where's the transform constraint off? Let's just switch to the channel box because that's probably fixing that. So if I move that face off, this little section here isn't moving with it. I just move that up and down. This section is not connected at all. I could go through and I could weld these vertices together, which is probably what the WoW team would have done, but they don't really need to bother too much with optimizing. When these are still relatively, when you look at things like the Unreal Engine, this is a relatively low polygon technology. I mean, this is a game that's 15 years old. Remember, even though this is BFA assets, the technology is still hampered by that original engine from 15 years ago. But it's good solid technology, that's what works so well. There we go, a few of those came through fine. So I can check in on those. Let's do this one, this one's missing, there we go. Stopped using 3D a couple of years after school, went into retail because he was burned out by it. Burned out of IT. Oh, that is a shame, Silent Mouse. You could always come back to it though, I guess, in the future. I mean, with everyone being locked down at the moment, a lot of people are retraining and things like that, or thinking certainly about what they are currently doing with their existing lives and what they might want to do in the future. It's kind of interesting times for many. I don't think I selected all of those. I don't think I'm selecting any of those. Actually, let's try that again. There we go, that's better. No, it's probably just an error from the artist's point of view. There's no real reason why those faces wouldn't be connected. It's probably just an artist would have forgotten to merge the vertices of the asset. It might save them, a few minor amounts of data. It's not like they're doing any smoothing operations or anything like that on this, so you can probably just get away with it, as it's such low poly assets. It's probably they worked on a few things and then just didn't quite finish it off. But yeah, you'd probably end up welding those together would be my... If you were properly cleaning up this object, that would be the way to do it. So with that all done, I mean, I probably wouldn't do that in this stage actually. I don't want to affect all the other ones, really. So we can just at least go through this a little bit. Didn't they go over to new stuff after we could fly in Cataclysm? Yes, I mean, the engine has been updated, obviously, but a lot of the basic technology here, using PNGs with alpha on them for the leaves and just using planes and things like that, is fairly standard old technology when it comes to game engines and things like that. I guess the new stuff we're seeing with the Unreal Engine and the things people are doing with mega scans, which is like a digitized environment stuff. There's a lot of polygons being thrown around and stuff like that. So you're starting to see a lot more detailed techniques other than using cardboard cutouts, as it were, for leaves, and seeing actual leaves in a lot of these cases. There's two of these close together. I could probably do that one on its own, I reckon. No, that one's stuck together, so let's go in and do this one. Just make sure I'm in selection mode so I don't accidentally start moving things. See, with Bob Ross, he just did this with a few brush strokes. When it comes to 3D, it's all about selecting the faces. But they're still happy little trees, nonetheless. Pop that one there, just fix that one up. Where's that gone? I can't quite see it. It's because we've got the other tree right next to this one, so it's hard to see the two of them together. Let's just select those together. Yeah, just chatting whilst watching item sales on the auction house. Have I considered doing a just chatting stream? Well, I'm not really at this point. I kind of figured that it would be... I always feel like I need to be doing something at least. Cryptexus, wow, using your Prime, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. That's super kind of you. Welcome. Or rather, thank you for your continued support. Lovely to have you here. Have I seen the Unreal Engine PS5 trailer? Yes, there is a lot of polygons. I wonder how, I mean, they can't really optimize something like this. I wonder how their engine handles. I mean, taking a lot of the stuff they were saying, like directly out of ZBrush sculpts and things like that, does sound appealing. But it makes me think that it's going to waste a lot of people's hard drive space and things like that by not being optimized. And it's almost wasteful in many senses. Unless it's going to add a great deal, there's still a reason to optimize things and make them 1 terabyte per patch. Yeah, can you imagine? It's just going to be absolutely massive. Alright, so let's go through and just change those over. And assign those, and I can work on this tree that's right next to it, and then we can fix that one up. I mean, this is what we tend to do for a lot of my stuff in 3D, is it's quite repetitive, a lot of the work we do, and then you start to think, okay, would there be an easier way of me doing this by a script or something like that? But it's not always the case. I'll assign that one to that. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and just go through everything. They're looking quite nice now. We've got a few, what's that, 2 over here. And then everything else is fixed. Just giving this a quick scan. Yeah, they all seem to have the right ones. So it's literally just these 2 trees here. So I'll take that one. Swap that over, assign that to that, and then go up to this little tree sitting all on its own, and we'll go through here and we'll swap those ones over and assign that to that. Okay, that's all of those done. All of those trees that did have that strange misassigned texture to them. So I'm just going to save that before I do anything else. Happy if you don't have to retopologize ever again, to be honest. Although ZBrush is really nice for retopology. I do like that, although it is kind of like an art form, a bit like when using Maya and UV mapping and things like that. It's like meditation, time to think about what you're doing next, just zone out. Yeah, definitely, I'm in the same boat as Edwards. It's basically, you can just, you look at the flow of the polygons along the mesh. Yeah, that's how I like to think of it. So let's jump back into the main scene with all those happy little trees. How are we doing with everything else? There's a few other textures here that need to be fixed. There's this one that's assigned to these trees. So this is a brand new texture. Let's have a look. So we've got tree dead canopies. So we'll go here and reverse. And we'll just pull out the alpha on this. And the transparency, that comes out into that, and then out from there into the transparency, red, green and blue, and that should work quite nicely for that one. This one's an interesting one. It's got a couple of low shrubbery type ones here, so we'll take that, and the one next to it as well. They're probably 2 different ones. Yep, there we go. You've got Cultiris bush and pine tree canopy, those ones. you manage to always work on low poly projects, so retopology is not needed. Yeah, it all depends on the nature of what kind of stuff you're working on, really, doesn't it? Whether you need to use those skills, certainly. That wasn't a cat, that was people shouting outside, Drizzling Rose. But the neighbours get a bit overzealous. I think they forget why they're doing it. They just like to shout, I think. So I'll go there, and we'll go here. Do the same for this texture node. Reverse the alpha. And the transparency. So that's those two done. So we're just looking for ones that have got obvious alpha map issues with all the shrubbery things. That's underwater kelp and things we got here. A couple of different ones looking there. We can adjust those at the same time. I have full just shrub, tall grass and shrub transparency. So we'll do those. Probably do that. That's not going to help me actually. I'll just do that. There we go. Out alpha into X. Transparency X. X into RGB. And then do the same for this one over here. Just adjust these nodes. There we go. Got a dash. Movie night with the girlfriend. Have an awesome stream. Wisdom. Well, thank you, Edward. That's very kind of you to say so. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Current project, 100% 2D assets painted by hand. You miss 3D modelling sometimes, but it's very cool to do something different. Oh yes, absolutely. Painting stuff by hand is a really nice diversion when you've been doing a lot of 3D, certainly. Right, so there's the grass and everything else coming through there. But Freckle, thank you very much for your resub. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. I have a whole load of emotes for you. Thank you indeed. So let's have a look at this one. I'm going to do the same process here. So it starts to get a little repetitive once you start doing a lot of these. We'll look at some lighting and things like that in a little bit. Once I've sorted out the textures, we'll see what we can do in terms of the render at the moment and see if we can get something looking nice. But the main thing is to get all this stuff. The main problem I'm going to have is with the building and the blending of the textures there. These are all fine. We've got things like these, which are obviously going to need to be changed using these cards, which will always face the camera. But for me, that's not actually going to be useful, having them all face the camera. I'll be better off looking at that and doing some actual glow effect in Maya itself. We've got all these dangly bits here that need their transparency sorted out. Because I bet you, what's that? That's water stains. Interesting. Suramar Dungeon water stains 01.png. Now, are they using these as stains themselves? I wonder. Let's have a look at this in the game. So where's that? Near the towers. They're all underneath there. Let's have a look at what these actually look like in the game. So here we are. Overseer's Rock. You can barely see them when you look at them up at this date. It's literally just a tiny streak just down here, but it helps break up the tiling nature of this texture, this brick texture. If we look at that from a distance, you can see there's a repeat there and a repeat there. So this is obviously tiled across to get the two different sides. If you just have a look there. But it looks like there's also a little bit of vertex blending perhaps going on there. Is that vertex blending? Or is that actual No, that's in the texture itself. The main problem we do have though is this has come through as a solid texture, so there's nothing behind that. This is overlaid on top, so that's easy to fix, but this we're going to have to actually remap entirely, these whole sections, like all of that I'm going to have to work on separately and do some sort of blend map between one and the other and do like a layered texture or something like that over the top of this. So that's obviously a very harsh looking line. That's not going to work for us for our purposes here. We can fix this one for the moment though, so we'll do that. The other one's going to be slightly more complex and more time intensive, I would say, from looking at that. So we'll just adjust this, put the alpha map, reverse it, and feed it into the transparency shader. Very, very faint actually looking at that. Colour and transparency, you can barely see anything, but that's what I would expect on something so subtle. Now you can see it's literally just a blur along here, along the top. It's very effective. It works very well. If only they'd been able to do that with this, but then that would have meant doubling up the polygons on a lot of this area all around here. So we'd have to do a lot of work on there. So looking for any obvious transparency issues. First and foremost, those clumps look like they need fixing. We'll fix all of these up and then we'll come into something quite nice. Hopefully that will at least render without any obvious glitches, except for the building and the other cards and things. If we can get something close to nice tonight within the 3 hours that I'm here, that I would say would be a good use of my time. I'm just figuring out what I'm doing today. Probably night, good evening to you. We are looking at Tol Dagor in actual 3D modelling software. So this is kind of like a slight departure from my usual gold making. This is what I do as my day job. So we're looking at Tol Dagor here. This is the actual Tol Dagor with all its fog and beautiful glory. And we're trying to make a nice, maybe a brighter version of this. We can also look at some other sea and have this looking not quite so foggy and see if we can get ourselves a nice little beautiful render of it. At the moment it's not looking too bad. We've been working on the textures that have transparency issues when it got imported. We're just trying to fix up a few other bits and pieces that are quite obvious here that need, whoops, let's select everything. There we go, select that one, add that one, do a couple at a time. We just have to basically add an extra node in for the transparency, remap the alpha map for the transparency, reverse it. That's a reverse node, so I'm literally just linking the texture map here. It's just literally just got the color mapped to the shader. What I'm doing is actually remapping the alpha map into a reverse node that then reverses it, so the black becomes white, the white becomes black, and then I'm feeding that back into the transparency RGB values of the shader, like so. And then we'll do the same here, and we're just going to go through here and here, do the same thing. This is basically my day job, but a WoW related day job. I mean, if I was doing this full time, this would be the sort of things I'd love to be able to do during the day, is do WoW assets and WoW rendering and things like that, and then of an evening do streams and YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff. Or a mix between the two would be really nice. That's the ultimate aim. We're doing okay so far. Now that looks like it hasn't got the alpha maps, but it has. It's just because the lighting isn't quite working there on that one. Still got a few missing textures here. I'm not sure what's supposed to be assigned to these. Probably something, yeah, there's nothing actually assigned to that. I wonder what's in there. What's right in the middle? What does it look like? Okay, whoops. Just move out here a little bit. So it looks like we've got the weedy texture that's over here. Pierre's in the way at the moment. Can be something. Good evening to you. Just popped in after buying flowers with your mum and listening to a technical meeting with what you used to do for your day job. Busy morning. Wow. Well, lovely to have you here. This is the same program they use at Blizzard to build the world. It looks kind of like BlizzCon snippets they showed. Yes, it is. It is the same as what they do actually in Blizzard. They use Maya for a lot of their work. They even used it for a lot of. I was surprised they use it for a lot of their 2D work as well. It looks like a flowchart for a neural network. It is a bit like that. It's all basically it's node based, which works really well for things like this. So the texture I'm probably missing here. That's interesting how I'm going to do that water. That works really well, that water. Sorry, Pierre, you're in the way a little bit there. So let's have a look at this. So it looks like we've got the texture over there. So this one looks like the same one here and here, perhaps. It looks like it's the same color and everything. So let's take that one. Have a look at the texture for that. So that uses Shore Kelp 01, Colterosone, Doodads, Colterosone. Let's have a look at that. WoW models under exported. Where is it in? Doodads. World. Hold on, I need to look at this directory a little bit more. World Expansion 7. Is it Expansion 7? No, it should be. Yeah, Expansion 7. Doodads. Colterosone. So this is all the individual textures we have there. And all the individual objects that is related to this. There's all the tree canopy bits and pieces. There's the stump, tree sapling, tree dead, tree canopy. So I imagine shore kelp we have here. This one is called, yes, Shore Kelp 01. So that's the same texture there. So there's a shore kelp object, which is this individual object here. Very cool to see different content in my profession. Oh, thank you very much, Kaida. Lovely to have you here. So this looks, yeah, this looks exactly the same as what we have here. It's literally just little lumps of kelp. And it doesn't look like there is an alternative here. Shore Kelp 02. Looks very similar though, using the same texture I believe. Shore Kelp and Shore Kelp. There's a Shore Kelp 01 there as well. So those all look to be the same. So I could probably safely assign this texture to both of those objects, and I think we'll be okay there. So let's have a look. Let's get the transparency sorted first. So reverse that node. And the transparency. Repipe that into the X, flip it over, and pop it over there. So that's that one, but then all of these ones, which haven't been assigned a texture, let's go in here a little bit more. Those ones certainly, if we go inside, we've got all the objects inside the dungeon as well. So if you go in here, you can see everything from the spiders, from where all the different rooms. Let's see if I can find one. There's all the parcels and things like that. Every single object inside has been imported in. There's a whole load of stuff to do here. So I'm just going to do these obvious ones at the entrance, and I'm going to assume that these are all shore kelp. For some reason they didn't get assigned a texture. And we'll move across to this side. That one looks like it might be slightly different, but maybe not, looking at it from that angle. That's not the object you want to select. That one. So let's just start with those immediate green ones there, and assign this texture to those. So now we can see those in the scene. Let's just move out a little bit. Now I've slowed things down. I'm going a bit too fast for my poor Maya at the moment, so I'm going to save it there before I do anything else, because I can often make Maya crash. So it's best leave that for the moment. There we go. Do I have a schedule for my stream, or is it when I feel like it? I do Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays at the moment, 7 till 10 UK time. I've updated my Twitch schedule to reflect all of that. EU main time, there we go, and Corona time Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. Every Tuesday and Thursdays becomes a Sunday basically. Every node is an object and the object is manipulated. How the node's connected? Sorry if I already answered the question. It's basically each node represents something. So in this instance you have this is a shader network. So the main shader, which is basically what defines all the material properties, its color, its ambience, its reflectivity, its specular, its transparency, is defined by this node here. What's being piped into this one is this texture node, which is basically the reference to the file shorekelp01.png. That's going straight into the color map. So that is the color of this texture is defining what the color of that shader is, and that's defined on the UV maps of any particular object. This extra reverse node that I've been putting in is taking the alpha map of that PNG, flipping it and reversing it so that it works correctly for the shader, and piping that directly into the transparency. So it's all kind of like feeding information and connecting it together into a sort of what's called a shader network. I've seen Oldham, they've used ship debris model for a tent on the ground and made it look like a tent was smashed by the N'Zoth's forces. A clever way of reusing old assets or something. Other than when made for only weird thing, they still bob up and down when they were still immortal. That's funny. That does happen. They use a lot of shared assets. I mean, if you can look in just this one section here alone, if you look in the different doodads, which is all the small objects that they use, everything here from expansion 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7, and a load of generic ones, Kalimdor, Critters, Azeroth, Blasted Lands, passive doodads, bones. They've literally just got that bone model there, and they've also got environment, doodad, carnival. Dark Moon Eye is somewhere, wherever that is. Wonder where that's hiding, that eye model. Dark Moon Eye is somewhere in here. Okay, let's go find that. Dark Moon. Let's have a look for it. Dark Moon Eye is in... There it is. There is an eye in a treasure room. There's some tentacles here that aren't working correctly. Where is this treasure area? Let's zoom out a little bit. That is underwater. That's an Easter egg and a half. Oh, we've got to find this. So that is underwater with a load of tentacles out. Which direction are we in? There's the docks. Right, we're going to have to find this. Right. Come on, Pierre. We're going hunting for an eye. There we go. Good evening, Rasheen. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for your 16 months of subs. That's absolutely amazing. And Nademan, thank you for your follow. Let's just go here. We've just found a little Easter egg through inspecting the 3D files. I want to see what it is. So that was out in the docks, right out to sea. Now, which direction do we need to go in? We're doing great, thank you, Rasheen. We're doing a little bit of 3D work today. So there's the straight part of the docks. Let's look at the file. So it was actually off to the left of the docks in a diagonal. The thing we're looking for is down there, so we need to actually fly more over this side, and it's down under the water here somewhere, and there's a whole load of tentacles in here as well. It's dark, it's going to be interesting. The fog doesn't help us here. Alright, there's you can see the lighthouse there. I'm going to have to work this out. I haven't got a diving helmet. I could probably do with one. We'll see how we get on with our breath for the moment. Don't forget the time for my +7 key. We may be able to do it on Tuesday, Silent Mouse, if we don't get a chance to do it today. Now, where is this? It all looks fairly well hidden down here. I need to reorient myself. I will have a look. Where is this? Or an underwater breathing potion. Both would work well. I need to find myself a... Right, where are we? We are roughly in the right place. So where are we here? So where was that object again? Dark Moon Eye. Focus on that. I mean, it's completely random that I saw that. So that is in amongst some kelp and things. There's no real landmarks around that, other than it is quite far out on the tile from looking at that. So we need to probably just now it's going to get too foggy really to see anything. This is the problem. Or shark form, that's a good idea. We could come over here with Awakening or something like that. Let's have a look. Yes, I think in the yeah, I definitely have to buy one. If I've got a mailbox nearby, I could probably do that. I don't think there's probably a mailbox here, is there? There's a flight point, but I am not expecting a mailbox. No, and I haven't got any of the tools either, so I'm going to have to, when I buy it, I'm going to actually come over here as Awakening, I think. Druid form will be easier. So I think for the purposes of this experiment, we'll lose the Silas buff on this one. I don't have Katie either. I haven't done the I've still got the quest to do for the mailbox. The Katie I haven't done the Lost Mail quest. I'm so behind on all of those things. But we're okay. We've got alternatives. Let's go over to Awakening, because he's got travel form. And we can go as a seal there, and that's got underwater breathing, so that'll be easy enough. We just need to get ourselves over into the right location. Argent Tournament from back in the day. No, I didn't do that either. Looks like a fence surrounding it. I was probably in the right area. Let's have a look. Let's go and investigate this. The things you find in 3D. I was not expecting that. It's surrounded by some tentacles, which obviously aren't there either. So Portal to Borealis. I'll have a look. I'll go and have a look. 150k savage blood. If you buy the pony for your squire, he's a mailbox too. Oh right, did not know that. Right, to Tol Dagor, my druid friend. Let's head out to sea and see what we can see. Takes quite a while to get out there, but we should be alright. Likely hit 4 million by Sunday. Fantastic, Dresing Rose. So you can look at the fog they're doing here and realise that this is just great big spheres in the world. And you just don't notice it as you're flying through them. Where can I find your TSM profile with groups and operations? Pastebin, as Metcat has just put in there. So we'll go and avoid, well, I was going to say avoid the fatigue area, but we just caught it. Because once you get over this area, it's very much, it's very dark and very foggy. Because it looks clear here, but then as you get close, might do a 1 million on the new server, by the way. Very nice. Newvin, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. Right, so art-wise, this is a slight digression from what we were doing. I can barely see in this fog. Where's the dock? There's the dock. So we want to be around about here, I think. Let's dive in here. Aha! Fantastic. Bullseye. There it is. Look at that. There's an eye and everything. So the tentacles is going to be interesting. We're going to have to animate those. There's nothing clickable, which is a real shame. I wish there was some sort of Easter egg we could click here, there. I mean, you never would have known. Look, there's a poor person that didn't quite make it. And there's a lot of gold here, in fact, from looking at that. I guess if that was a treasure chest, you'd see it on the icon or something like that. There's no cogwheel at all for anything, just hovering over all of this. Unless it's something that's instanced and you have to go here for a quest or something like that. But the fact that they put that there in the weirdest of places. I mean, it's so far out. You would have no reason to come out here. That's your long boy loot right there. What's the Eye of Providence, Silent Mouse? He was 106 after the starting zone Demon Hunter were the way. Thinking of running it daily on 2 tunes instead of the 1. Have to rank up the Dreamleaf on the second tune though. Is that for gathering up stuff? Ah, okay. Gonna make Arcane Mage to level in bed with your new Xbox controller. Very nice. No, I wonder if it is related to the secret finding community. But that is very odd. I'm going to have to screenshot that. So that's off Tol Dagor. There we go. Does the eye follow you? Doesn't look like it does. It's got a random thing on it, certainly. But that is very cool and very odd at the same time. That's absolutely brilliant. A sunken boat with treasure. Deep in the bottom of the ocean. And you never would have seen that from here in the midst of nowhere. How do I find my coordinates from where I'm at? It's just off of Tol Dagor here. How do you know it's there, Zardoc? Have you had a look? Are you in the same place? I haven't got... Actually, the Tomcat add-on I might have, actually. Add-ons... I've got Tom. That's not the set. Oh, Tomcat's Tours. Portable navigation assistance. Required a reload. There we go. Do I watch streams whilst working? I certainly do, Silent Mouse. Matt gave you a tip on farming Dreamleaf in Dark Heart. They made 5k gold for minimal time invested. Oh, very nice. Very nice indeed. So yes. There we are. That was the same as what you said. Oh, you're there right now, are you, Zardoc? Fantastic. Yeah, 98, and 98.41 and 50.64, thereabouts. Definitely. Well, that is odd, but amazing. I'll have to ask about the... I'll send a tweet out to the Warcraft devs and ask them about that one. But that is actually brilliant. I never would have thought until I actually looked at the eye. I didn't even spot it when I was just looking around here. I mean, if I turn off my C, you can't even really see it until you actually go into the model here. And that's when you really see it. Then obviously, I did wonder why there were tentacles here. Obviously, these need to be rigged and animated to do their swirly effect and things like that, and have the eye moving around. But that's amazing that they've got all of that in there. Someone's gone to a lot of trouble to put all of that in there as a little Easter egg. It looks beautiful. That absolutely looks beautiful. So I'll just zoom out a little bit and go back to our render as we were looking at it at the moment. Let's just focus in on this for the moment. What's that we've got there? That looks like just a glowing window of some sorts. If we just move that out, that looks like nothing of particular note. Oh, there we go. Patch swamp yellow glow. So that would definitely need a little bit of alpha on that, because that is basically the light glowing effect. Now, what you would do on this is probably add that to maybe some incandescence or something like that. But what you'd actually do is make it look even more better by making it an actual glowing object or something like that in this. But I'll just take that out for the moment. And we'll pull that in there. There we go. And then we've got at least that some sort of glowing effect over there. We've also got these splodges down here. To look at those. I'll just tie that in as well. Transparency, alpha into there, into there. There we go. Good evening to you. It's not as complicated as it seems once you start taking it and breaking it down into its component parts, but it is a lot of fun for those that do enjoy this kind of thing. So we've got most of the transparency things sorted there in terms of how this looks. I think we could probably get away with rendering something like that, I would say. Let's just take the eye off again and turn the C back on, and then just check my framing for the moment. Something like that, and save the scene before I do anything more than that. So see each other in Derplish's 24-hour stream tomorrow. I'll try and remember to pop by if I can. Silent Mouse. Takes more than 4 buttons. Oh, that's for all the leveling bits and pieces you're talking about. Just scrolling back through. Pretty sure if you had 50 alts, you'd never log on to click one button. Yeah, rather sit on the Brutosaur. Render perspective. Let's have a look. See how this looks. Select region too small. That's fine. It will just catch up through. There we go. Setting the textures up. Hopefully the stream's okay whilst this goes through. I'll check the render. There's a lot of work still to do on the water and all the other bits and pieces here, certainly. Okay, no problem, Silent Mouse. Thanks ever so much for stopping by. We're just going to have a look at this render. Once it comes through. There it is. We can move this over to this side. It's all very rudimentary at the moment. There's nothing too fancy going on with the sea. Obviously there's no real atmospheric effects or anything else going on. I've taken all the fog off and things like that, so we can make this look a lot prettier. Obviously you never see this in daylight. The main problem still here is the stonework. That's going to need fixing up, definitely, from looking at that. Just from zooming in on this. The transparency is working fine for the trees. That's all good. The soil and things is looking a little bit too garish at the moment. Obviously they're used to so much more used to having fog and everything like that. So that's going to be an issue for me, having my lighting so bright and seeing all of this. Maybe some ground clutter or things around here would help disguise that a little bit more. Let's have a look. Let's go over to where that is over the side, because it's so foggy here. That's why they've kind of like oversaturated the colours, so it doesn't look nearly as bright when you look at it as you're flying around. Because with the fog, it's quite a lot. Obviously with all the crabs and all the other bits and pieces, there's not a great deal of stuff here. Well, there is a little bit of things all around the edge, actually. Do I have those in? And a few rocks and a few sleeping bits and pieces. Definitely. So live, haven't seen me on here in a while. Have I tried the new Shadowlands yet? No, we haven't. We haven't got alpha yet, but I've been looking at a lot of the stuff on other people's streams, and it does look really nice. So we do probably have. Yeah, we've got the kelp and bits and pieces here, but this is obviously very much very bright at the moment. Maybe there's something I can do with that in the interim, looking at things here. So if we select all that, now if I've got a feeling this is going to be an absolutely massive shader network. I've just selected the whole thing. That's going to probably be too much, because I think the way the tiles got exported into lots of different little chunks, so doing an overall, yeah, there we go, it's a massive shader network here, so that's not going to really wash, because each individual tile, each texture tile has come out as an individual texture map, so that's not going to work in terms of toning that one down. Maybe I can do something else on that front. Right one too. Wow, 6 months. Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for your support. Lovely to see you here. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. We're doing a bit of Tol Dagor 3D rendering. But thank you ever so much for your support. That's absolutely super kind of you. A load of emotes for you. Thank you very much. What else did I miss? Is it possible in TSM whilst running a cancel scan to cancel all at the same time with just one click? No, unfortunately not, Magnus Game. It's basically one operation per click. That's how it works. Do I know if you can fix the internal auction error in TSM when you want to buy stuff? It just tells me internal auction error, then it's stuck. As far as I understand IDB Twitch, that's mainly down to clicking on it too quickly. It's not something I've encountered myself when buying things, but I have heard others having issues with that, certainly. There you go. As Metcat said, if you clicked fast when you buy the item, you have to just wait a couple of seconds. Right, okay. So, yes, this isn't... I was thinking of desaturating all of these, but I'd have to actually go into the shader node of the whole of everything, because they're all individual textures, each individual one. So that's probably not going to work too much. Anchovies down to 44 gold. Ouch, Drizzling Road. Because your bags are shameful. Well, if I can string with my bags, Metcat, then I'm sure you can too. So overall, this isn't looking too bad in terms of... Let's just change this render setting. We're currently at... let's whack this up to 720p resolution. And I'd like to do something else, which is with these little glowing things here. I'd like to do something with these, because at the moment, if I render those out, I'd like them to emit light, would be the next thing to do. Because at the moment, they look great, but they don't glow like they do over here. You see this nice, almost nice kind of glowing effect. They are bioluminescent. So what I would do here is I just let this version of it render. Then I'm going to do a few changes to the shader settings of this. Samurai, good evening to you. Hello from Eastern Canada. Good morning to you then, probably. I hope you're doing well. Just doing some attractively challenge and a crappy player. Well, me too. So I'm absolutely. There's no barrier to entry there. Back up to 1 million after buying your long boy. Have your eye on the spider mount now. Very nice. I know there is a couple of spider mounts coming in Shadowlands, but I believe they are going to be PvP spider mounts. So there's a couple of things I need to do here. First, in my render settings, we have this currently set. When we look at this render, is I'm not doing any bounces of the light, so it's literally just being cast and it's not bouncing around. And so there's an option I can turn on for that. It does mean that renders take a little bit longer, but it's all to do with global illumination. If I turn this on, if I just go brute force for the moment, three bounces is probably good. Let's just change this up to 128 rays. Will be just basic for the moment. So that's our original version. Let's re-render this again, and we'll have a look at how this works out with a bit of global illumination on. At the moment, it probably won't make a great deal of difference at this stage, but when I turn on the self-illumination of these mushrooms, then we can get some really nice glowing stuff, I think. Yeah, it is PvP spiders, is it? Okay. Have I disabled my panels, or can anyone else see them below the stream? They're gone for me. Yes, Angry Rock Slide. I shifted things around. Because of the way Twitch has changed, the way the panels are working, I put all my social media stuff all goes into little links on the side, and then I'm going to remake my panels at the bottom so that they're more consistent in size. But yes, they were removed deliberately just so I can change all the settings on them. But most of my social media links should still be accessible on the little side on the About Me section on Twitch. That's absolutely fine, Mr. Vader. I don't mind at all. Right, so this doesn't look a lot different, although it has rendered a lot slower. This wood texture's coming out really nicely, though. I really like the look of that. That is just hand painted at the moment. Sorry, yes, the donation button will. I think if you do, I think it's streamlabs.com/ Samadan plays WoW. That's the same button. So there's very little going on here in terms of the bounce light, which is what I'd expect, really. So I'm going to keep that one, but now I'm going to select these mushrooms and I'm going to work on their incandescence. Now I probably can't see it too much in this little sphere when I select that, but if I go, this is currently a Fong shader, that's probably fine for this purpose. If I pipe the out colour directly into the incandescence, that's probably going to be too bright when I do this. It will make them really bright and probably emit some light as well, but it might be a bit too much. We can always tone it down. Let's do another render and see what happens. Lindrosky, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. You enjoy my streams and YouTube videos. Oh, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you ever so much for stopping by. Right, so that's looking brighter. We're not necessarily getting light emitting from these. From looking at this, maybe the detail isn't high enough in the self-illumination. Oh wow, Angry Rock Slide. You got it through. Wow, that's amazing. That's so kind of you. Thank you, Angry Rock Slide. Let's see, loads of emotes for you. That is an amazing, kind donation. Thank you very much indeed. You are incredibly kind. Thank you. That's very kind of you. So it doesn't look like we've got a lot of light bouncing around. I was hoping to cast the light off of these and it will bounce around this area. It may be that it hasn't quite got enough rays to cast the whole lot in terms of sampling. You've made 35 bags today and still have 7 monks left. Wow. I bet you that those are selling quite well as well, I imagine. What would be nice is if this was setting this whole section a little bit green. Delete monks. Gone down to 780 gold though. That's a shame, yes. It does happen. Right, I'm going to let this render go all the way through. It seems to be okay being able to stream and render on 16 gigs of RAM. I was very surprised on a 1060. I mean, if you were to look at my CPU and memory at the moment, we are pretty much flatlining with all cores and all memory at the moment. That's okay. It's all for a good cause. Mr. Potato 2.0 is doing very well under the strain. Don't see a lot of difference other than the self-illumination on this. I'm going to have to fiddle with my settings a little bit more. The main thing you've got to think about when you're doing 3D like this is you want your feedback loop to be quite quick and rapid, and obviously waiting several minutes for a render to come through does slow that down. I'm obviously going slightly higher on my render settings here, and there's a lot of stuff I could probably hide to make this a lot faster. So that was the original version. That was with the bounce light, which we saw very subtle changes, but not too much. And then this is with the bioluminescent mushrooms. They do cast a little bit of light, looking at that inside the scene. But I'm not sure if it's an optical illusion or not. I'm looking down here. There is a little bit of bounce light going on, but it's not cast very far at all. In order to increase that, we'd probably have to work on that a little bit more, perhaps, I wonder. Hughes the Hobo, thanks for stopping by. Hope you're doing well, and thank you very much for the follow. Currently 2k profit on deep sea bags on your server. Too many to click your way through on a reset. Yeah, that's the problem with bags, isn't it? You can't reset them very easily. Does the application have an option for a light source so shadows can be manipulated? Yes, so we've got two main light sources in the program at the moment. We have one, if I go out of this mode, if we go one, this light here is a dome light that is using a HDR map, so like a high dynamic range photo, that controls the whole overall lighting. And then I've got a directional light, which is this light here, which is where the sun is shining from. I mean, if I were to, in fact, let's take this, let's hide this light and go back to my viewport where I was down here. Was it that view? It looks about similar. And just look at this under lighting. Is it that one? Let me just make that. That's not quite right. That's about right. So let's keep that and keep that, and we'll turn that off, and we'll do another render. This time we're going to do, we haven't got the dome light showing, so we've just got the directional light, which is behind, it's pointing the other direction, so this should all be dark. So the only light you're seeing next should be just coming from the mushrooms. We'll have a look at that, see if it actually renders through. And then we can see how much light is being bounced out from the mushrooms. You can see there, it's just catching the edge of things there. I only have two tailors, maybe switch some professions around. Not a bad idea. Although I'm always reluctant to change a few professions, certainly. Fun is the best motivator for gold making. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, yeah, we're looking... We've got some nice glow going on. We are showing up a little bit. If I was to boost the incandescence a little bit on these, so you're just basically seeing that extra light coming from there, we could maybe look at increasing that value. So if we go out here and we look at the mushrooms, so the out color is going straight into the incandescence, we could boost that up with another node like we did with the reversed node. We could probably do one with remap hue, saturation and value. I think was probably a good one. So if we take the out color of here, pop that in there, and the out color of here into the incandescent, so this is going in between those two nodes. And then with the remap hue, saturation and value figures over here, we can boost the value, so the selected value at the end is at 1. If we boost that to 2, so he's like over boost it, you can see just this little light here increased by a small amount. So if we now go back to our mushrooms, so that was without any light on, so we'll save that scene as well. And I'm going to save again because I just like to save regularly. Always think of light and shadow because you really like the Dutch masters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how I like to do my lighting when I come to do stuff like this. Is I'm painting with light. That was something that that Toy Story talked about, and Pixar rather, in all their movies and things. Feels so shiny. I just move myself back there and let that render through. So these are now doubly bright. We've increased the brightness on those mushrooms Some of those are getting very bright indeed. And then we can see how much that makes a difference once we turn the other lights back on. I could possibly turn down the overall skylight. It's kind of like a stormy sky. But at the moment that's looking okay. I don't want to overblow it really when looking at this. Always buy frozen orbs and old Dalaran and buy elementals and sell for big profit. That sometimes works, definitely. What is it? Somewhere between 60 and 75 gold, depending on your reputation. Try selling Vala Sands. Requirements: Flask of the Winds, Flask of the Titanic Strength, Pyrian Bar daily cooldown. Yeah, about 65 gold if you got the full reputation. I think it's about 70, 75 for me at the moment. Without counting their thing, they're very bright indeed, definitely. I think they may be slightly too bright looking at this, but if you look at them in game, they've got quite a large sort of almost implied glow area on them. Maybe because the area is so dark, they stand out quite a bit more in this scene than they do in this one, certainly. We'll have a look. We'll pull out the camera a little bit, and we'll have a look and see whether I've overdone it too much. I don't know what this red shader is at the moment. There's probably something missing there. So that's what it was. That what it is now. So we have brightened that up a little bit. That's what it was originally, and you can see all the shadows underneath it. And then once we actually increase the illumination, then you've got quite a lot more detail there. So let's turn on the dome light again and maybe just tone it down a little bit, because at the moment the exposure is set to 2. Let's set that down to 1. And then let's move our scene out a little bit so we can capture a little bit more of this detail. I mean, some other things that will be nice here will be some nice depth of field and stuff like that. But we can probably get quite a nice shot. I mean, lots of different shots we can do from this actually. Let's just go through and render that, see how that looks. Tons of vendor runs a vortex pinnacle for your daily zones. Get volatile air around 200 air, still worth probably like 5 to 10k. Less than 30 minutes of runs. That's a good idea actually. We're just kind of playing at the moment, iTotu. We're looking at rendering here the Tol Dagor, trying to use the assets we've got, tidy them up a little bit, and then we'll add a little bit of atmosphere and things like that. Obviously you can see here I'm still got a lot of lighting and things to look at. The mushrooms are probably over bright at the moment, and they're not casting a lot of light beyond their immediate area. So I'd have to probably look at see if there's something I can do in terms of how much light I could make them actually light emitting objects, and then I could possibly control the strength of those. I mean, the lighting here at the moment is probably a bit too contrasty at the moment. We'll probably need to just add in a bit more subtleties and things like that from the way this is at the moment. We've got some nice shadows and things going on here. You can see the horizon here. It's got a bit of a black line on it. So that's not too bad from where we were here. So they do stand out probably a bit too much, I would say. It's quite a bit subtler there. So I'd probably tone those back down again on the shader. We did double the amount they illuminated. It's probably too high there looking at that. I'll probably tone that back down to 1 or 1.25 at the most. Looking at that. Looking at the objects themselves, I wonder if there is an option inside to have a look at these. So let's make sure that's the correct one. Look at the attributes for this. Go into Redshift. And so we can probably turn on, is there anything we can change there? We can do the global illumination and things like that. Tessellation. Render stats. Nothing's going to give me anything here. Unless there's something specific. I'm not sure. Brute force photons, global illumination, unless I actually increase those by a huge amount. Object properties, mesh parameters node for selection, that might give me something extra, but we've already got these at the moment. Can this be a new Be Right Back screen? It certainly can. Once I've got it up to a decent setting, I'll also do this as I'll do some nice still renders for wallpapers for people, and I'll put that on the Patreon as well. I did that with my my planet. I added that onto the Patreon earlier a few days ago. Did that as a nice 4K render. What else did I miss? No problem, Judging Rose. I'm only half catching your conversation, but following it nonetheless. So, yeah, I don't think adding that in. I'm going to save this before I try it. Or do something else then. I make the mats for the mount also like Titan Steel, Living Steel and True Gold. They usually sell for a lot on your servers anyway. Yeah, they certainly work for me as well. The Living Steel, certainly. I haven't tried the Titan Steel. True Gold occasionally I do. Right, so with that object selected, Redshift, I'm just seeing if this adds anything. Mesh parameters node for selection. No, that is literally just the same one, so there's no need for that. You can take that off, we already have that there. So I was hoping for something that I could maybe increase the amount of, force the amount of rays that it casts. The thing I would probably do here is I would probably fake it in some way. So what have we got here in terms of lights? Portal light, physical light, IES light. Normally sometimes you have properties where you say make an object a light emitting source. And just have a look, see if there's something we can do in Redshift. If I made a physical light, what do we have? Unit type, mode, color, light type, area, point, spot, or directional. That's not really going to give me what I really want, so we'll get rid of that. The other thing we could possibly do is actually put a turquoise light in the scene to represent this glowing. It's a bit of a brute force method, but it is doable. You could literally just take a point light source. Let's say we created a light, just a point light, and we move that. Where's the point light source? We'll move that into the scene, and we could just give this a little bit of extra. Put it in amongst the cluster or something like that. It's more of a fudge than anything else. I'd rather emit it directly from the geometry, but I don't want to blow out the lighting too much here. So I'll probably have to look at this. Oh, Derpledge, thank you for the host. I like that one, Jizzing Rose. Final honour with the buff. Mining would make a living still on all 40-year alts, but buying the mats isn't worth it for you if you like farming. The ghost iron, you make a lot of gold from it though. Exactly. Do what's fun for you, certainly. That's fair enough. Okay, so let's look at this light source. This is a new light source. We're going to pop this here, and obviously we'd need to change its colour. We can actually pick the colour straight out from here. We could probably look at the node here itself and probably pick a nice bright colour from here. So I'm going to select that, take the colour picker, and pick a nice turquoise colour for the light. it's going to decay, probably a cubic decay, so it's got quite a sharp fall off. Now the best way to look at this is we're probably going to reduce our geometry down so we can just see things a bit quicker and get a bit faster feedback. So I'm going to take a few of these things that we have here. We've got the prison, main building is there. Then I want to take all the random bits that's inside the prison. I'm going to hide them. There's a whole load of stuff in here. I'm going to hide all of that so we don't have any of that geometry getting in the way. And then we're going to take a group of the other bits and pieces. I'm going to take, which is the one we're looking at the moment? That's tile number, this tile here. So I'll take the other three and I'm going to hide those so we don't have those as well. So I've literally just hidden a whole load of the geometry that's in the scene now. So I've taken a lot of it out. We can probably even take the sea out and hide that. Then we can look at some of the stuff here. We really want to keep the mushrooms if we can. WMOs, we probably want to keep those. And then the doodads are all the other bits and pieces, but obviously there's a lot of them here that we don't need. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to just take some of these, isolate out a huge chunk of them here and hide them so we don't have those in the scene either. Take that and that, hide all of that, and we're just left with our scene here. Then this time I can use the Redshift real-time practical. Well, it's not quite real-time, but it does give me an option to then move the lights about in the scene. I could probably do it with the IPR renderer. So again, we'll just turn this on, render the scene. And then basically what we'll do is this will get rendered continually whilst I'm doing my adjustments to the lighting, and then we can see exactly how it affects things at the same time. It just takes a little bit of time just to work itself out. There we go. Okay, so we do see that light is emitting a fair amount already in terms of how much it's dropping off its colour and things. Casting shadows as well. So that gives it a little bit more of a sort of a gloomy feel, almost. But then I can take that light and I can move it around in the scene and then see the effects on the left-hand screen. It's just a little bit slow, obviously. I moved it inside the building. That doesn't help. There we go. Let's move it back over this side. Might be easier to do this with the actual Redshift renderer itself. It's usually a little bit faster. So let's have a look here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll just actually just render that. That should be easy enough. There we go. Need trillion bar, 3 spirit of harmony, and the riddle of steel. Yes, for the living steel. Yeah, that looks like it's too bright. Looking at that render, let's get the Redshift render view up. We can have a look at this. Do I plan on streaming my progression in Shadowlands? Most definitely, Magus Game. I will be. I'll be streaming as I was streaming with BFA as much as possible. It's cheap to buy mats most of the time. Right, there we go. That's obviously a lot brighter there. I mean, it does look quite nice. And it does give us a quite good effect. Nice bit of shadow there, although they shouldn't really be casting shadows because they are illuminating themselves. That's the main difference here. So it should really be a more subtle effect. If I took this intensity down to 0.25, just reduce that by a fair amount, that should be a bit better. And then we could maybe, if we were going to look at boosting up that value again, where was it? 1.25, but we went all the way up to 10, like massive amounts. Then that's super bright mushrooms, but they still don't cast a lot of light from there. It's got a very sharp fall off compared to what they do in WoW, and those are obviously now overly bright. I mean, I could take that down to 3. Then you start getting the shadows in as well. I could maybe just take that down a little bit more. Doesn't it depend on 1 if the mushrooms are illuminating below, 2 if the light from above is brighter than the mushroom? Pretty much. That's the balance we've got at the moment. I'm trying to balance between how much. I mean, I can turn off the shadows of the actual light itself, so it doesn't actually. It just literally just casts the light. Then you don't see the shadows underneath the mushrooms, which kind of helps with the effect. It just adds an overall glow to that. Then what I'd probably do in that case is make a duplicate of this light and move it over here for each cluster of lights. If I can do this without breaking it, that would be nice. So now we're going to have some glow coming on this side as well. So that's adding another area of glow here. That works quite well actually, from the looks of things. Maybe we ought to do that. Let's have a look. Let's close this down. Let's turn that off for the moment so we can do this a bit quicker. So I've got a light over there. I could probably duplicate that again. Make another light over here to represent that cluster of mushrooms down there. I mean, you could even put them in the mushrooms almost. That would really help. Put them lower down. Call this mushroom lights or something like that. I'm just trying to get an overall effect. The same with this one. It tends to get a bit expensive if you start doing lots and lots of lights. Can't quite select that one. Let me just get in a bit closer. There it is. And then there's a nice big bright mushroom in the back in this corner. So I can pop that light over this area where that one is. And then probably move another one there, and then we'll move on all the way over this side, and we'll go down here. These stalks need to be self-illuminating actually. I just realised that looking at those. Oh, Arnota, raiding with a party of 47. How was your stream, Arnota? Thanks ever so much for stopping by. This isn't quite gold making as we know it. This is 3D Tol Dagor. It's still World of Warcraft kind of, but we're currently just having a look at putting some nice mushroom lights in this area and illuminating the whole scene up a little bit. So we're doing a lot of 3D stuff here for Tol Dagor, whilst also looking at it in WoW itself as well. It was great, excellent. Finally got to come raid my stream. Well, that's very kind of you, Arnota. Lovely to have you here. And I forgot to say happy birthday for the other day. I missed that when I raided you the other day. Just managed to buy a Mecha Mogul Mark II for 120k. They're going for 390 on your server currently. Thinking you should use it or not, since you haven't learned it yet. Oh, I'd be tempted to use it personally. Speckett, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. So we're currently looking at rendering this area in 3D, but we're doing it with a little bit more sort of 3D lighting and things like that. Oops, that's why that slowed down. I just selected the wrong thing. Let's just see if we can come back to that. I haven't killed my Maya. Let's hope that it's still working. My OBS is still okay. Just have to wait a little bit whilst my poor Mr. Potato slows down again. There we go. Right. Probably exit out of this. See how that goes. Right, okay, we're there. We've got the render there. Go back into object mode. And then turn that off. And then some of this stuff we can have a look at. So we've got a whole load of point light sources we made to help make our mushrooms glow. We also had, whilst I remember, these stalks need to also be self-illuminating. So we look at the texture for these, which is the mushroom small gen. There we go, we'll go straight, we'll do the same as we did before. So we'll do a remap HSV, hue saturation value, and we'll take the color, pipe it into there, and then out color into the incandescence, and then we'll just boost that up a little bit. Selected value, just make that 2 so it glows nice and bright. Remember to save. Thank you, Drizzling Rose. I probably should save in a moment, I think, from looking at things. Trail Woodrose, thank you very much for the follow. Hope you're doing well. Let's give this a test render. Let's look at it from a bit further out. I've turned quite a few things off. Let's put the sea back on. The dome light was quite limited at the moment. I turned the exposure down on that one. I feel confident in saying that Samadan should make the next WoW expansion. Well, I'm just dealing with the amazing art that Blizzard themselves have created. I'm not doing a great deal here other than lighting it and making it look pretty, which is what my day job is really. So let's have a look at... Oh, I turned off a lot of the other bits and pieces, didn't I? So we can probably go here into the group that I've got selected. Let's take some of the ones that I hid and reshine those ones back in. So I'll take all of those, and we've got the fog. We need to take the fog off. We haven't dealt with that. The fog is really it's just great big white spheres at the moment, which is going to be no good to us here. And we'll zoom out. I think we'll see the whole thing. So let's have a look here. Turn that off. Show those as well, so then we can see all of the other bits and pieces. So we've got the whole area of the sea and everything else, including our Easter egg area that we saw earlier. So with those, they should make the area glow quite nicely, I think, even in daylight. It might look a little bit odd though, so let's just set this up for a wider shot render and see how much light is being cast in that area. Right, now I'm going to save, because my crash sense is tingling. Don't want to lose anything so far. And then we'll do a render and see how that looks. Up to 44 bags now and still 4 characters left. Very nice indeed. Let's just move that to the side. That should hopefully work. Basic gold making comment: buy low, sell high. Yeah, that's how it generally works, definitely. Conte, how are you? Thanks for stopping by, and congratulations on your Brutosaur mount. That's excellent news. Let's put a load of Brutosaurs in the chat for you. There you go. Relieved to have that done. Yes, I bet it is, definitely. Yeah, so our lights of our bioluminescent corner is very, very bioluminescent here. Even in daylight, I think that's probably making it a little bit too intense from looking at it. We've got some nice glow going on, but it's probably just a little bit over egged. It's kind of like the old Disney adage. They say, take it as far as you think you could possibly go and then double it. Whereas in this case, I think take it as far as you think you can go and then make it more subtle. We don't really want to be overblowing this area quite as much as this. Make you want to go investigate it. Yeah, there is definitely that. It is definitely a come to this area. It looks like we've spilled a whole load of stuff in this zone. Definitely from looking at that. It's certainly a far cry from the gloom of here. I mean, with all the rain and everything like that. I mean, we've got a similar kind of look going on, but you can see here where the objects are fading out because of the levels of detail. So you can only really go... That's as close as you can get. I mean, what are my graphics setting on? System. Let's go all the way up to 10. So our view distance and environment detail is higher. Return to game. And then let's go a little bit further out, and then we can see how far backwards we can go. There we go. Then it starts fading out there. That's about as far as we can go before we lose all of the mushrooms and things. So then when you actually fly further out, you get a lesser and lesser effect until you're here and you don't see anything. Whereas in our scene, we're quite a ways out and you can still see it. So we just basically just need to tone this down. We haven't got any atmospheric effects or anything like that. This is pure just CG render, so you've got no desaturation of anything or things like that. So there's probably a lot more we can probably do here in terms of that, but I probably would turn those down. So what I would do in this section is take all of these point lights. They've all got the same intensity, so I'll go into my attribute spreadsheet and I can adjust them all at the same time. And under their shape keyable settings, we have intensity here. This value here is 0.25, so if we turn that down to 0.1, and then we go to the mushrooms were remapped to a value of 2, let's pop that down to 1, and then let's take the other ones. I don't have the shader for that, so let me just zoom in on this without changing the viewport. Then I can go here and just select those and adjust the hue saturation value of that back down to 1, so they're not quite so bright. Now I can go back to my regular view there, and we can go back to our scene here. I'll save that version, and then we'll just re-render this middle section here and have a look at that. Now it's been a bit toned down. I think that would probably be a little bit better, I would say. There we go. I can just deselect that. So it was really bright. We just toned it down just a little bit, not a huge amount. I mean, we still got our mushrooms here and all the different renders we did earlier, but that does just tone it down a little bit, and we need to just work on the saturation of this kind of area, put in some environment fog along here. That will help just mellow all this lower area out. So overall I think we're doing really quite well so far. It's not obviously the sea needs a lot of work on it at the moment. There's a lot of stuff we need to do there. The main thing now is really this building with all these harsh textures in the corners. They're not supposed to be like that, so we'd have to work on those as well. And then we've got all the internal bits and pieces as well. We've got to work on that as well. So there's quite a lot still to do. But we worked out the transparency on the trees, so we've now got happy little trees. We don't have any critters in the scene. That would make it look a little bit nicer. We could look at our lighting effects a little bit more, we could probably look at that. It's very much a bright daylight scene at the moment. We could think about what kind of atmosphere we're going for on this, because if we were to look at this, probably or what I do need actually, looking at this, is we need a sphere around that shows the whole sky. So let's take one of these. Let's do that whilst I'm here, and we'll pull this all the way to the edge there. Then I will mesh display reverse, turn it inside out, and then I'll also make it render stats. It's not going to cast or receive shadows, no motion blur. It is visible. Doesn't need to be visual in reflections or refractions because the environment's doing that, and it doesn't need to be double-sided because we're just seeing the inside of it. Then it needs a texture applied to it, and I'm going to use the same HDR image as we're using for the sky. So I'm going to get myself I guess a Lambert shader is nice and simple. Could use a Redshift shader for this, but a Lambert one will do the job. And instead of colour, now I think an ambient colour will be the best for this, because we don't want it to be actually producing light, we just want it to have zero light on it at all. And then I will take my source images, go to my, these are all the Blizzard textures in here. There's absolutely loads of them from both from this export and from when I did all the work on the BRB screen as well. So we want Stormy 01. I could use the JPEG for this. That's probably better than using the HDR map because I can see that in the screen, I think. And hopefully, if I refresh the swatch on that, you might be able to see it in the viewport, maybe not actually. I'll take the bottom half faces, we'll get rid of those. We don't need those. There we go. Let that come through, lagging a little bit behind there. Delete those. Missing one down there at the bottom. Yep, it's definitely slowed down a little bit. Am I still rendering in the background? I don't think I am. Just turn that off. I think we have just literally just slowed down because of our viewport at the moment. It's got a lot of stuff going on here at the moment. So we don't want UV version, we want to go back to object mode. And then we're going to zoom in here. It'd be nice to be able to see the sky in this. Now normally you'd see that in the color map. So if we do the out color into here, then you can see the sky. Then we can see the sun. There's a great big sun sort of like glow there, which is where our directional light should be coming from, but it's not because that is rotated minus 94.609 degrees. So if we do the same with that one, that should line that up with the sun over this side. It might, yeah, that should be about right. So if we're looking here, let's frame this shot quite nicely. Let's see our viewport. There's no fog or anything like that yet, so that's something to deal with. Where's our glowy side? Our glowy side's there, so maybe we want to do it this way. Like that. Let's line this up a little bit more. It's quite a boring sky though, that one. It looks much more dramatic around this side I would almost want to just rotate that round slightly, but then we don't get to see this interesting bit. If we had, oh, we could do it this way. We could see this off to the side, see the sun compositionally. Then we're on this right side, we've got the sun on that side, and then you've got the glowing effect there. That could possibly give us something nice compositionally. There we go. So we'll take that, and then we'll do another render. I'm going to save this again, and then we'll do something like that. My average is probably 7 gold. What's that for? For deep sea bags. Deep sea bags are 40 gold each, and tie spray for 7 gold each. Wow. Easy gold, come to Frostmourne and Farm Cloth. They are really expensive right now. Yeah, deep sea satin is really expensive. Yeah, tie spray linen is quite expensive. It's at 4 gold 50. I would buy it at. So let's look at our scene here. Let's give ourselves another room for a render. So we've got that one. We'll save that scene as well. These are just our test renders as we go. And let's have a look at the nice low angle render. See how this works out. Okay, Derplicious, lovely to have you here. Thank you for stopping by. See you again soon. The joy of rendering now. Oh, it looks like I might have frozen. I can see my camera. My mouse is fine. Oh, it looks like my stream's stuttering a little bit there. I think that was just down to my rendering then. That was causing an issue. Not quite. We just about made it. That was mainly basically Redshift hogging my graphics card just whilst I rendered a few frames. There we go, we're back. It was mainly basically having to load everything up. My poor computer, I don't think it can quite handle this. We are literally hammering nearly all my memory, my CPU's right up at the top here. So we're definitely pushing what we can do here. This is a very stormy sky and a very blue sea. They don't match in the slightest, so we would have to change those a great deal. We've got a nice bit of glow going on from our mushrooms here, but our lighting's completely off at this stage. That's 3D rendering for you. Yeah, basically completely kills your computer. And my shadows are off as well because the sun is over here, but my shadows cast this way, so I need to rotate my directional light around a little bit, or I need to rotate this round a little bit more so that it reflects where my directional light is. Would be the extra thing to do here. But yes, this is very, very gloomy sky for such a bright sunshine. I think that's off as well because my highlights are over here, but the sun is over here, so there's definitely a issue there with the location of the light source. I think I'm probably off on that as well from looking at things. But yeah, this sea is definitely too blue. It would need to reflect a lot more of the sky, which would be something I could do in... Let me have a look at this. How would I adjust this? The probably easiest way would be to simplify the whole lot and hide all of that. And then we're also going to hide the prison. That goes down as well, and then we're going to take our point lights and we're going to hide those, and then we're going to create a sphere and we're going to simply stick that in the middle. Oh, that's too big. 10, like so. Then we can see where the light is and how it's affecting everything, and then we should have a much quicker render time. And then we can see where things are off, what's wrong with the sea, what's wrong with the horizon here, and make adjustments accordingly. Because according to that, we've got light more over the back end. from my HDR, so it's not lining up with my sphere, my spherical mapping. Probably need to do another 90 degrees, I would say, from looking at that. So this, currently at minus 94, should really be over here, which is more like 180 as a rough guess. So I'll re-render that. There we go. Your computer stutters when you open Solitaire, no worries. Yeah, that would be make more sense. Oh, that's looking a bit better in terms of at least the light is matching up. You've got the brightness over the right hand side. We're not getting a lot of reflection in the sea, so we would probably need to have a look at just making this look a little bit nicer. It really is a nice sky though. That does work well. Having some fog in here would also help. So I think what I would do in a situation like this is jump over to the Redshift Render view and just have a look at this in real time, as near as real time as you can get when it comes to rendering. Then I'd start playing with the actual attributes of my sea shader. At the moment we don't have a lot of reflectivity, so I'd want to turn that up so it starts reflecting more of the environment. And then we can see a bit more colour coming in there, so my diffuse weight I'm going to probably tone down. Transparency we could probably turn up, although we don't want too much. I could probably do with an actual sea shader itself, because the specular colour really needs to be more like this bright yellow if I was going to be following this, but then that's way too high, so I'd have to tone that down. So then we can keep that up, keep that a little bit richer colour wise. We can then just go here, that's looking a little bit green, so let's just make that a little bit warmer, and then tone down the amount of reflection and tighten the reflection up a little bit, like that. Bernie CT coming in with your Twitch Prime, thank you very much. That's very kind of you, thank you for your support. Really do appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. A whole load of emotes for you to use as you will. That's gone a little bit off now in terms of colour. I think that colour needs to be desaturated a little bit more. And it's still a bit reflective now, so we could tone that down a little bit. And then I'd probably start looking at, it's still very shiny though. I almost want to just tone the whole lot down, make it a bit more subtle. Specular's still quite high. Transparency probably up there a little bit more. That's probably too much. If I can probably put some refraction in there, that would probably be better actually. Something on that. Just popped in, what am I working on? I am currently rendering, it doesn't look like it, but this is Tol Dagor, this sphere we have here, but we're just looking at matching up my sea and my sky at the moment. So I'm just doing it with a sphere at the moment so that everything else can be nice and fast in the background. So I'm going to go off a version number now that I've been fiddling with this quite a bit. I don't want to change this too much. And then a good way to then blend in the horizon line that we have here is to get some fog going on. So what we would need to do here is go into our options under output, under environment or atmosphere, environment, atmosphere. Great, redshift volume scattering. And then we'll have a look in the settings for that. So we can then look at our emission will should hopefully give us some fog that I can see. I might have to give it a bit of height. Can't remember what scale I'm working to, so I might have to adjust this slightly. Or our attenuation would be the next thing I'd fiddle with. There we go, there's our attenuation. That's our depth of our fog. But height-wise, we want to lower this down. So we're coming close to the horizon. A little bit of horizon blur. Gives us a bit more room there. Emission-wise, we can tone this down a little bit more. Emission-wise, we're going to pick a colour out of the sky a little bit. We could probably actually take this blue here. That would be quite nice. Or the yellow. Yellow because we've got some sunlight in the scene there as well. Game Cat, no problem. Thank you ever so much for stopping by. Lovely to have you here. Have a great rest of your evening. Now we're going to tone this fog. And we don't really want to tone that down too much. We want it nice and bright. But we can maybe just adjust the height down a little bit. Because this is going to be our fog there. Now how much more can I blur this? Horizon blur. If I stick this up to 10, I think that's probably going to be way too much. Don't really see a lot of it at the moment. 0.1 doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But we can have a look at our scattering. Does that make a much difference? I don't think it does. So our attenuation down to 1. That makes it more subtle. 0.2 makes it even more subtle. So 0.6. You can see it just coming off the edge there. Probably up our height to 10. That will just blur it off a little bit, I think. And horizon blur, I'd like to try and up that a little bit. It's not quite how I would like it. I would probably just take my emission. Don't want it to be that bright. Almost don't want it to be bright at all. But then it goes really dark like that, which doesn't work as well. Got to say, I find the stream pretty awesome. Well, thank you, Traditioner. It's very kind of you. It's very different to my normal gold making stream, certainly. I'm just literally playing around in 3D at this stage. So this isn't the fog effect I want, but I would like a little bit of fog. So we will need a little bit of emission in here. So we'll go up here. The problem is, when it looks dark, it looks really dark. So we need to tie it in with the sky colour. So it almost wants the blue. The blue haze is kind of better for fog. It kind of gives it a nice, cool effect. But we're not getting a very nice effect on a horizon. It may be that we need to actually hide this one. And then we can see our background image, which is not quite the same from looking at that. If we were to change that, now let me think about how I would change that. So that's the HDR image in its correct location. Anthony G70, thank you very much for the follow. And if we put that back on, we get a bit more detail on the sky, which looks nicer definitely. But the horizon isn't quite there. It's close. It's certainly close. But we just need to smooth out this this final bit of horizon here. So if we go into our options here, go into the volume scattering, and then we can play around with this a little bit more. Camera exposure compensation. Probably do need that. The main thing here might be actually our texture we're using here. If we use the HDR map rather than the JPEG, then we'll get more dynamic range out of this. This may or may not be the right way to go. Where's my stormy 01 HDR. This is the big file, it's 66 megabytes big. So we'll see how that goes. Once it selects it takes a little while. This may kill the stream for a little bit whilst it loads this up, so hold on to your horses. Let that run through. Seems to be okay so far. Okay, that's not too bad. Doesn't make a massive difference to the render there. That's fine. Okay, we'll leave that there. And then we can get rid of our sphere. Let's hide that. Oh, I just duplicated it. Oh no, I didn't. That's the other sphere. There we go. Okay, we can hide that. There we go. Then we can select our Tol Dagor. Probably worth me saving before I do this, because we've just been working on our fog for a little while. I want to make sure that's going to work. Judith Creative, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. You can make a WoW movie. There's definitely, I'd love to do more kind of like WoW stories or things like that. I had an idea of doing, I would like to spend some time rigging the Brutosaur and have it sort of do a little animation of the Brutosaur jumping up and down and acting like a dog that wants to play fetch, and instead of fetch with a stick, you have a bag of gold. And so I want to have Samadan holding a bag of gold and throwing it in the middle of Borealis, and then having the Brutosaur jump and skid and catch the bag of gold and then run back and fetch it. But that sounds great in principle, but that's a lot of work. I'd have to work on rigging everything, getting everything sorted. And great, thank you. How am I doing? I'm doing very well, thank you very much. We're currently working on the lovely WoW asset of Tol Dagor. I'm just about to reveal the whole environment and then do a render of that with our new sea and sky. Yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff. And he runs to a melon. Yeah, there'll be a lot of really nice stuff you could do with that. Really nice. I'm nearly there. We're doing really well so far. Last 10 minutes. What I'd like to do is get a nice render out of this. Something to show for our 3 hours worth of work that we've put in so far, and just making it look a little bit better and cleaning a few things up. Still a lot of work to do on this, but we are in a much better place, I would say. Let's turn back on all my mushroom lights. Turn those back on. Right, and then we can go to our scene. So that was our last render, which had the sky and the sea completely mismatched. So this time, hopefully with our change in sky and sea, probably want to rotate the view round a little bit. Actually no, it's probably quite nice from there because you get the nice backlit of Tol Dagor. That could probably work. Let's have a look. Let's go for a render, see how it looks. Do I have an Instagram? I do. If you do exclamation mark Instagram, that will give you a link to it in the commands list. I don't tend to post a lot on my Instagram. You'll find me more active in my Twitter and my Discord. In my Discord, I've got a creative section just for doing stuff like this, and then on my Twitter, I tend to just post everything, all and everything that I do at the same time. Right, let's have a look. It's looking stormy and gloomy. The fog's coming in okay, so that should help subdue a little bit of the saturated colours we had at the beginning. We've still got to work on the building. That's not quite there yet. The fog, you can see the hard line there. It hasn't completely gotten rid of that yet, so we'll have to work on that. The glow's coming out nicely. The mushroom glows, that's about the right level of glow I would want. The sea is looking very specular at the moment, so some more work on the sea, and we'll need to do some nice white foam and lots of really nice effects around the actual shoreline. That would work really well here as well. This is all looking a bit dark and contrasty here underneath the eaves, so I'll probably look at that a little bit. There's no light beam effect or anything like that, so there's plenty to still do at this stage, but it's looking a little bit more atmospheric. Obviously there's no Kul Tiras in the background either. We should see the mountains of Kul Tiras. That would make it look really nice if we got need to add ambient occlusion to the pic to give it depth. The water near the horizon should not be so crisp and clear. Yeah, it's basically the fog that I've added to it at the moment. It doesn't go off very far, which is why you've got this harsh line here. We were able to soften it a little bit at the moment. Ambient occlusion would be fine for sort of like the hidden shadows in here, but the global illumination is doing a fine job of that. If I put ambient occlusion in there, this is the main issue we've got here, is just like this harsh horizon line. We'd need to just work on that a little bit more, I think, from looking at that, because it's a little bit kind of like foggy and then harsh line there, definitely. Have Magni saying thank you for following and jumping up and down for subs. I could do so much with the WoW assets. There's lots and lots I would love to do, certainly. So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's nowhere near where I would like it, but there are quite a few improvements we've done since our original image. Let me see if I can find that. Where was our original image that we had? The render from earlier. WoW models. My looks like I've been logged out in the background. So that was our earlier version we had of that. So all the trees were wrong. All the let me just jump back into the world so we can get the music right. There we go. So comparing the two, it's getting there. The trees are definitely better. The glowing area down by the shore, all the mushrooms and things, is better. The harsh lines here need to be worked on. I'm still not happy with the sky and the fog. The sea still needs a lot of work in terms of setting that up. So it's almost never ending, but it puts us in a good place, I would say, for at least getting something that's going to look nice overall as a nice render. Once we got sort of like the sea animated, that would be really nice as well. So there's lots of things, but I would say after today's work, I'm quite happy. Can you share your artwork on Discord? It's not digital artwork though. No, you're more than welcome to. Right, so we've got, yeah, so that was the sky before. It was way better than that. That was complete mishmash there. We're getting a bit closer to something looking a bit more atmospheric. We worked on our mushrooms, but I'll save that image out as a representation of where we got to tonight. I hope you enjoyed me doing something a bit different than the usual gold making, and showed you a little bit of what I do as my day job. So when I'm not online and you see me and I'm at work, this is the kind of thing I do, but it's not with lovely cool models like this. It's far more boring models, but it's the same kind of principles. All this kind of stuff is kind of what I do. So I hope you found that useful. If you did and you'd like to see more, please let me know. If you thought it was awful, then please also let me know, and you'd rather see gold making, then I'll stick to that too. Let's see if we can throw a host on or a raid on over to someone. I haven't looked to see what was on. Let me just pop it. Oh, that's bright. Let me just move that over that side. Go over this side and have a look, see who is on. Well, probably I would say some gold making would be the next best bet. So I would say, let's have a look. Persephone is on. We could send some love over her way. Or Jet is on. I haven't done Jet in a while. But I'll do Persephone tonight because I haven't done Persephone for a while. She looks like she's doing a little bit of multi-boxing and doing some pet farming at the moment. Certainly, Jessica Creative, I'll have a look later. Probably not tonight, though. I'll probably look in the morning tomorrow. We're going to send a raid over to Persephone. So going back to some WoW gold making, with a little bit of multi-boxing thrown in there. Persephone. Can't spell. AE. There we go. So, thank you all. My next stream will be the usual Sunday night WoW Economy weekly wrap-up, where we'll go through all the gold making for the week and discuss what's been going on. So, I'll catch you all then. So, until then, have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you all on the real Sunday. As Salamar says, we'll send a raid over to Persephone. Thank you all. It's been lovely having you tonight, and I'll see you again soon.